Beyond the shiny cities and the glittering promises of global technology, there lies Lake Eyasi, a remote corner of northern Tanzania. Here, where asphalt roads vanish and cell signals die, the Hadza tribe survives without electricity, clean water, or hospitals. The smell of wood smoke clings to the air. The sound of crude arrows slicing through the trees marks a brutal monkey hunt. No money, no schools, no hospitals. And yes, men with 10 wives living by ancient rules. Are we romanticizing poverty or witnessing something far more complex? Follow us as we uncover the raw reality behind one of the world's last hunter-gatherer societies and the harsh truths hidden behind the myths. Number 1. Life 10,000 years ago. Lake Eyasi, tucked away in the northern reaches of Tanzania, where the 21st century feels like a distant rumor. It is here that the Hadza people live, a tribe that has barely changed since the Stone Age. As of 2025, fewer than 1,500 Hadza remain, making them one of the last true hunter-gatherer societies on Earth, according to recent estimates by Survival International. But make no mistake, life here is no romanticized adventure. The Hadza do not build permanent houses. Instead, they piece together fragile shelters made from branches and leaves, thrown up in a matter of hours and abandoned just as quickly. These makeshift huts offer little protection from the blistering sun, the nightly winds, or the predators that prowl the bush. Privacy is a foreign concept. Comfort is a luxury they have never known. And forget about electricity, running water, or healthcare. Here, survival is at the mercy of the rains. If the skies stay dry, the streams shrivel into cracked earth, and drinking water becomes a gamble. Bathing, cooking, drinking. It all depends on what nature provides. Modern medicine. It is a ghost they have barely heard of. A simple infected cut, something easily treated elsewhere with a dab of antibiotic cream, can spiral into a deadly threat. In fact, research from the World Health Organization in 2024 shows that preventable infections are among the top 3 causes of death in isolated indigenous communities, like the Hadza. Imagine waking up each day knowing that a thorn prick, a slip while climbing for honey, or a snake bite could end your life, and there would be no ambulance coming, no hospital waiting, no safety net to catch you. Life here teeters on a razor's edge, where resilience is not just a virtue, it is a necessity. And yet, amid these harsh realities, the Hadza have endured. For tens of thousands of years, they have whispered their survival secrets into the ears of each new generation. It is a fragile, beautiful defiance against a world that has long since rushed past them. But how much longer can they hold out? Number 2. Monkey hunting for survival. In the dense woodlands surrounding Lake Eyasi, survival is not a game, it is a matter of life and death. For the Hadza people, one of their main sources of protein comes from a practice that sparks fierce debates among animal rights activists: hunting monkeys. As of 2025, studies by Wildlife Conservation Society indicate that up to 25% of the Hadza's animal protein intake comes from primate hunting. What sounds cruel to outsiders is for them simply survival in its rawest form. Armed with nothing more than handmade bows and poisoned arrows, Hadza hunters move with a silent precision learned over generations. Their weapons, crafted from sturdy local woods and tipped with deadly sap extracted from desert rose plants, are marvels of ancient engineering. One shot must count. Miss, and the hunter may not eat for days, and the hunt is no easy chase. It means long hours under the burning sun, tracking agile creatures that know these forests far better than any human ever could. But hunting monkeys is not just risky for the prey. It is life-threatening for the hunter too. Falls from towering baobab trees, wounds from desperate animals fighting for life, or accidents with the toxic arrowheads themselves are everyday dangers. According to data from the Global Indigenous Health Alliance, injuries from hunting-related activities account for nearly 30% of Hadza male health complications annually. And here's where the story turns even darker. In a world driven by scarcity, the concept of conservation simply does not exist. The Hadza do not stockpile, they do not farm, and they do not plan seasons ahead. When the forest grows quiet and prey becomes scarce, desperation rises like the midday heat. Any living creature, birds, lizards, even insects, can suddenly become the next meal. It is survival stripped of sentiment, reduced to its most primal instinct. Picture it. The crackle of dry leaves underfoot, the taut silence of a drawn bowstring, the sharp tang of fear, not only from the prey, but from the hunter too. In the Hadza's world, every breath is a bet against nature, and every meal is a victory clawed from the unforgiving wilderness. Number 3. Honey, the sweet survival source. When the dry season scorches the land around Lake Eyasi, turning rivers into dust and trees into brittle skeletons, the Hadza people turn to an unlikely savior: honey. Believe it or not, during these harsh months, honey provides up to 80% of their caloric intake, according to a 2024 report by the African Nutritional Research Institute. That sticky golden nectar is not just a treat, it is survival packed into every shimmering drop. But finding honey here is no easy picnic. Without modern tools or protective gear, Hadza hunters must rely on a tiny wild bird called the honey guide. This clever creature sings a special call, leading the hunters straight to hidden beehives. It is a partnership written deep into the DNA of both species, a rare alliance between man and animal, in a world that otherwise demands survival of the fittest. However, the journey from the forest floor to a dripping hive high in a baobab tree is anything but safe. Armed with nothing but fire-smoked torches and sheer courage, Hadza climbers scale dizzying heights, balancing on branches no thicker than a broomstick. The air hums with the furious buzz of angry bees. Stings are inevitable, falls are common. In fact, a 2025 study by the Indigenous Health Observatory found that injuries from honey hunting account for nearly 15% of emergency medical cases among Hadza males. And for what? Sometimes, after hours of grueling effort, the reward is a mere handful of honeycomb, barely enough to fill a single bowl. But in a land where every calorie matters, even a spoonful can mean the difference between hunger and hope. It is tempting to romanticize this, to imagine brave hunters basking in the golden sunlight, laughing as they feast on nature's candy. But reality has a bitter edge. This is not a folk story. It is a daily gamble where every drip of sweetness is paid for with sweat, blood, and no small measure of risk. So next time you taste honey, think of the Hadza. Think of the songs of the honey guide, the sting of bees, the shivering hands reaching high into a storm of wings, all for a few drops of life, won from a world that gives nothing freely. Number 4. Polygamy, survival or oppression. Deep within the Hadza camps scattered across the lake, Eyasi Basin, marriage looks nothing like the fairy tales many of us grew up with. Here it is not uncommon for a man to have 5, 6, even up to 10 wives, a fact that often fascinates curious outsiders. But fascination quickly turns to controversy when we peel back the surface. According to a 2025 report from the Indigenous Cultures Observatory, approximately 22% of Hadza men over the age of 35 are in polygamous unions. Now, on paper, women have the freedom to choose their partners. In theory, a Hadza woman can leave a marriage if she is unhappy without fear of retaliation. But in practice, choice is a tricky illusion. In a society where survival hinges on hunting skills and physical endurance, a man's ability to provide food and protection often outweighs personal affection. As one Hadza elder put it, "A good hunter has many wives because he keeps many people alive." It is a harsh math where survival trumps romance. The pressure does not stop there. With multiple wives comes an unspoken expectation to bear many children. In fact, fertility rates among Hadza women are among the highest in the world, averaging nearly 7 children per woman, based on the latest study by the World Population Review in 2024. While large families are seen as blessings, they also place a tremendous burden on the women physically, emotionally, and socially. Imagine this: a woman in her early 20s, already a mother of 3, hauling water, gathering food, nursing infants, and tending to household fires day after relentless day. Healthcare is virtually non-existent, so pregnancy complications that would be easily treated elsewhere can become life-threatening here. Maternal mortality rates among Hadza women remain alarmingly high, hovering around 400 deaths per 100,000 live births, far above the national average. It is tempting to view Hadza polygamy through the lens of exotic tradition or romantic survival, but in truth, it is a system born out of necessity, and one that places a heavy, often invisible cost on the shoulders of its women. A cost paid not in gold or silver, but in broken bodies, shortened lifespans, and silent sacrifices that too often go unseen by the world beyond the forest's edge. Number 5. Hadza women, the silent backbone. If you really want to understand the heartbeat of Hadza life, you will not find it in the tip of an arrow or the echo of a war cry. You will find it in the calloused hands of a woman carrying the weight of her community one step at a time. In the Hadza society, women are the primary foragers, gathering tubers, wild fruits, and even precious honey day after relentless day. Hadza women are responsible for providing up to 70% of the community's daily calories, a staggering figure that rewrites who the true hunters really are. Yet their work is far from easy. Foraging means walking for miles under the pounding sun, digging through hardened earth with sticks, dodging snakes, and enduring thorn cuts that leave scars not just on skin, but on spirit. And they do it without complaint, because survival does not wait for comfort. But food is not the only thing these women provide. In a world without clinics or pharmacies, Hadza women also serve as the community's healers. Using knowledge passed down through generations, they treat wounds, infections, and illnesses with leaves, roots, and tree sap. While admirable, this reliance on traditional medicine highlights a sobering reality. The Hadza have virtually no access to modern healthcare. In fact, fewer than 5% of Hadza women have ever received formal medical treatment in their lifetimes, and as if foraging and healing were not enough. Hadza women shoulder the unseen, endless work of life itself. They haul water, build fires, raise children, mend shelters, and somehow through it all keep the fragile rhythm of the community alive. Meanwhile, Hadza men, though skilled hunters, only go out on sporadic expeditions depending on the availability of game. There is no me time for these women. No breaks, no weekends, no one waiting with a thank you. Their days blur into each other, a symphony of footsteps, sweat, and silent sacrifice. They are the first to rise and often the last to sleep, keeping the flame of survival burning when everything else seems ready to flicker out. In the grand narrative of the Hadza, it is easy to admire the daring hunts and ancient rituals, but the real heroes, they move quietly among the trees, carrying the world on their backs unseen and too often unsung. Number 6. Education without books. In Hadza society, there are no classrooms, no chalkboards, no textbooks filled with maps or math equations. Instead, learning happens the way it did thousands of years ago, through watching, listening, and doing. A child's first lessons come not from a teacher's lecture, but from trailing behind a mother gathering wild tubers or a father stalking prey through the thorny brush. It is an education written in footsteps and firelight, in whispered stories and hard-earned scars. At first glance, it seems almost beautiful, a pure connection between knowledge and life itself. But under the surface lies a deeper truth. In today's world where satellites orbit overhead and artificial intelligence writes code in seconds, Hadza children are left dangerously unprepared. According to a 2025 survey by the United Nations Indigenous Education Initiative, fewer than 10% of Hadza youth have ever held a pencil, let alone learned to read or write. Imagine a boy skilled at tracking an antelope across cracked earth, yet unable to read the simplest warning sign. Picture a girl who knows which roots can heal a fever, but cannot write her own name. In a globalized world where survival increasingly demands navigation through bureaucracies, medicine, and technology, such knowledge gaps become gaping chasms, and the consequences are not theoretical. Indigenous communities without access to formal education are nearly 3 times more likely to experience extreme poverty exploitation and land displacement compared to those with basic literacy skills. But for the Hadza, the barriers are immense. Formal schools are often dozens of miles away, an impossible journey on foot. And even if a school existed nearby, the Hadza lifestyle built around seasonal foraging and hunting does not easily fit into the rigid schedules of modern education systems. So the question lingers in the dusty air. What happens when a society built entirely on oral traditions collides with a future written in code and contracts? In the shadows of towering baobab trees, Hadza children still laugh, still learn, still dream. But in a world moving faster than ever, will dreams alone be enough to keep them from being left behind? Number 7. Life without money, freedom or risk. For the Hadza, money has never been part of the equation. Trade here is not made with coins or bills, but with needs: a basket of wild berries for a hunk of meat, a bundle of firewood for a hand-woven bow. It is an ancient system of barter, one where survival defines value. No banks, no debt, no savings accounts, just the immediate rhythm of give and take. In a way, it sounds almost utopian, like a slice of a simpler, purer world untouched by capitalism's cold calculations. But even paradise, if you look closely, has its cracks. As modern tourists begin to trickle into the Lake Ayasi region carrying cameras, curiosity, and crisp paper bills, the Hadza way of life is shifting. Some Hadza now craft jewelry, carve wooden souvenirs, and sell them to visitors. According to a 2025 study by the Cultural Preservation Society, roughly 12% of Hadza income now comes from interactions with tourism. And with that trickle of cash comes a flood of unforeseen consequences: cultural erosion, internal jealousy, and the slow, creeping dependence on an economy they never needed before. The biggest irony: in gaining access to money, the Hadza risk losing the very freedom their system once guaranteed. Without a financial safety net, there are no savings for a drought year, no insurance for a hunter injured on the trail, no health care or school fees for children should the forest no longer provide. A system once celebrated for its simplicity begins to reveal its fragility under the weight of a changing world. Imagine living in a place where you are rich today, because the rains came, and destitute tomorrow when the river runs dry. A place where your survival hinges, not just on the skills you inherited, but on forces far beyond your control: tourists' whims, market prices for souvenirs, government policies you have never even heard about. So the question hangs heavy: is living without money true freedom, or just another kind of prison, one without bars, but with invisible walls made of vulnerability? The Hadza have survived countless generations without coins in their pockets or numbers in a bank. But as the 21st century barrels forward, survival might start demanding more than barter and bravery. It might demand choices they were never trained to make. Number 8. Primitive survival skills. In a world where a flick of the wrist lights a stove and dinner is ready in minutes, it is almost unimaginable to think of starting a fire by rubbing 2 sticks together. But for the Hadza people, this ancient art is not a quaint ritual. It is daily survival. No matches, no lighters, no shortcuts, just dry wood, calloused hands, and sheer determination. The technique is simple on paper, but brutal in practice. Rubbing a hardwood drill into a softer wooden base until friction births a whisper of smoke, then coaxing that smoke into a fragile flame. It can take anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour, depending on the weather, the wood, and the weariness of the hands. And the fire is only half the battle. Cooking itself is a full-blown ordeal. Unlike gas stoves that hum to life with a click here, every meal is a race against time and weather. Meat must be roasted slowly over open flames, tubers need to be buried under coals for hours to become tender enough to eat. And if rain clouds roll in, which they often do during the wet months from March to May, an entire day's efforts can vanish in a heartbeat, leaving bellies empty and spirits even emptier. Think about it in our cities. The biggest kitchen disaster is burning toast. In the Hadza world, failing to cook a meal could mean going to bed with nothing but hunger gnawing at your ribs. It is a test of patience, resilience, and ingenuity that few modern people would pass. And yet, for the Hadza, it is simply life as they know it. No complaints, no plan B, just a stubborn flicker of flame against the endless winds of hardship. This is not survival TV. This is not a weekend wilderness retreat. This is everyday reality, raw, humbling, and fiercely unforgiving. Number 9. Facing modernization. The Hadza have roamed the dry valleys around Lake Eyasi for tens of thousands of years, but today, the land that once stretched endlessly before them is shrinking fast. As of 2025 data from the Land Rights Watch initiative shows that over 60% of traditional Hadza territory has been taken for agriculture, private farms, and infrastructure projects. Beyond the shiny cities and the glittering promises of global technology, there lies Lake Eyasi, a remote corner of northern Tanzania. Here, where asphalt roads vanish and cell signals die, the Hadza tribe survives without electricity, clean water, or hospitals. The smell of wood smoke clings to the air. The sound of crude arrows slicing through the trees marks a brutal monkey hunt. No money, no schools, no hospitals. And yes, men with 10 wives living by ancient rules. Are we romanticizing poverty or witnessing something far more complex? Follow us as we uncover the raw reality behind one of the world's last hunter-gatherer societies and the harsh truths hidden behind the myths. Number 1. Life 10,000 years ago. Lake Eyasi, tucked away in the northern reaches of Tanzania, where the 21st century feels like a distant rumor. It is here that the Hadza people live, a tribe that has barely changed since the Stone Age. As of 2025, fewer than 1,500 Hadza remain, making them one of the last true hunter-gatherer societies on Earth, according to recent estimates by Survival International. But make no mistake, life here is no romanticized adventure. The Hadza do not build permanent houses. Instead, they piece together fragile shelters made from branches and leaves, thrown up in a matter of hours and abandoned just as quickly. These makeshift huts offer little protection from the blistering sun, the nightly winds, or the predators that prowl the bush. Privacy is a foreign concept. Comfort is a luxury they have never known. And forget about electricity, running water, or healthcare. Here, survival is at the mercy of the rains. If the skies stay dry, the streams shrivel into cracked earth, and drinking water becomes a gamble. Bathing, cooking, drinking, it all depends on what nature provides. Modern medicine. It is a ghost they have barely heard of. A simple infected cut, something easily treated elsewhere with a dab of antibiotic cream, can spiral into a deadly threat. In fact, research from the World Health Organization in 2024 shows that preventable infections are among the top 3 causes of death in isolated indigenous communities, like the Hadza. Imagine waking up each day knowing that a thorn prick, a slip while climbing for honey, or a snake bite could end your life, and there would be no ambulance coming, no hospital waiting, no safety net to catch you. Life here teeters on a razor's edge, where